Alright, so what was today's question number 38?
How many square inches are in a square foot?
How many square inches are in a square foot? How many are there?
144.
144. How'd you guys end up getting that?
12 times 12.
12 times 12. Okay. So, what we end up dealing with, guys, is I have 1 square foot, right? What material deals with square feet? Plywood. Plywood, right? So plywood. Guys, quiet. If I have 1 square foot, if I have 1 square foot, right? 1 foot by 1 foot. How many inches are in a foot? 12, right? 12 inches in a foot. I want to know how many square inches are in a foot. 1 square foot, right? So I have 12 times 12, which gives me 144 square inches, right? So, I want you guys, everyone grab out their bill of materials. If it's out there, then just hold on, take notes, so you're not.
Where is it?
Alright, so here we have our bill of materials. You guys should be to this point, right? What we found out yesterday, or what was it, 2 days ago, was we found out our unit costs and everything, right? How did we figure out that, or what determines this? This stuff right here.
The unit cost.
The lumber yard, right? So it's not actually something that we deal with. It's something that is dealt with at the lumber yard. What was this? 58 cents? Okay. All right. So if you guys have noticed that we have our finished dimension columns and our rough dimension column, right? Okay. So what we have here is we have our rough and our finish. Why did we have our rough dimensions again for solid lumber? Because it warps, right? We have to account for extra material so that we can get rid of any warping going on, right? Does plywood or trim warp necessarily? No. Okay, trim will warp, but that's a different story. So really what you guys can do is kind of section off this area right here, because remember that we added a 1/4 inch for thickness, we added a 1/2 inch for width, and then we added a full inch for rough, or for solid material to our rough dimensions. Since we don't have to deal with warping on our plywood, we don't have to deal with this information being brought down. Now, what 2 dimensions did we deal with for solid, or for plywood? Length and width, right? So I only dealt with these 2 columns right here. So what I can do down all my sides and my bottom is I can place an X. Because remember that if I want a piece that's 3/4 of an inch, I'm going to go to the store and buy a sheet of plywood that's 3/4 of an inch, right? I want a piece for a bottom, so I have to buy a sheet of plywood that's 1/4 inch. Okay, I'm not going to plane that plywood. All right, so since we end up having that information applied, or we don't have to deal with any warping it all you can do is transfer these numbers over, okay, just as is. So why don't you guys go ahead and do that right now. Okay, then do you remember what is the dimension that we deal with for trim? Length, right? Linear feet. Okay, so we haven't necessarily talked a lot about trim. That's what we'll be talking about next. But for right now, what I want you guys to do is we don't have to deal with thickness. We don't have to deal with width. The only thing that we deal with for trim is our length, right? Notice how it kind of steps down. We have solid lumber. We deal with all three, so we have to make sure we account for all three. We deal with plywood. We only deal with two, so we only have to deal with 2 dimensions for material estimation. Same thing for trim. Same principle that applies to plywood as trim is that you don't need to take into account any other information, so you can just transfer these right over. Now, what I want you guys to do, the last step that we're going to do for today is, well, you should be able to easily do this, because trim we saw is sold in what? We deal with the length, but what's it sold in? Linear feet, right? So we have to convert this. Right now we're in inches. We have to convert this to feet. How many inches are in a foot? 12. So this is just 1.0, right? How many inches or how many feet are in 24 inches? 2. You think correct. I'm glad. Whew.
12 inches go with the quarter trim or the lattice?
12 inches goes with the corner trim. Okay? Oh, that's a good point. I almost made a mistake right here. Okay? So, remember that we have 4 pieces, but I only accounted for 1 right there. So if I have 4 pieces that are 12 inches long, how many linear feet do I need for this project? 4, right? Because whatever I end up doing, I always have to multiply by the number of pieces. Okay? So this is a big, important column. Okay? It kind of gets left in the dust every once in a while. I forget about it too. Now, what I want you guys to do is just pay attention up here. Is these are in inches, but we said that plywood is sold in square feet. Okay? So I know that the formula for area is what? Length times width, right? I have length and width, so I'm going to take my length times my width. So 23.75 multiplied by 11.5 ends up giving me 273 square inches, right? But I want to deal with square feet. How many square inches did we say was in 1 square foot? 144. So am I going to multiply or divide by 144? Divide, right? So I'm going to take that answer, divide by 144. So I should end up getting 1.9 square feet. I have 2, so I'm just going to double that. 1.9 multiplied by 2 because the number of pieces. So I'm going to have 3.8 square feet. Okay? So there's 2 ways that you can end up dealing with square feet. You can either take your inches and multiply them together and then divide by 144. So if that's what you're going to do, then you can just kind of go divide by 144 or make a note somewhere. Or you can convert these to feet right away. So I could either take 12 divided by 12, which would give me 1 foot, multiplied by 23 divided by 12. So this in square feet or linear feet would be 1.92 square feet. That looks like a 4. 92 square feet. So I would just take 1 times 1.92, and that would end up giving me how many square feet. Okay? So there's 2 different ways that you can do it. You can either first convert these to feet and then multiply them, or just multiply them together and divide by 144. Okay? Don't forget your number of pieces. So what I want you guys to do now is finish out these 2 columns right here, and then once you're done, go out into the shop.